somebody says on your property, there's gold right here, drill right here. And you think, yeah, why not? Why not drill a hole right here? But then we can't just drill a hole wherever somebody thinks it is. So we have to do a little more diligence on this technology, and we intend to.
Imagine a treasure so elusive it has guarded its secrets for over 2 centuries, protected by engineered flood traps and a maze of shafts designed to defeat anyone who dares to look. This is the reality of Oak Island, a place where legends of the Knights Templar and Captain Kidd's lost riches meet the hard, cold reality of modern engineering. For years, the so-called money pit has yielded only fragments, ancient coins, fragments of parchment, and even human bones dated centuries apart. But the narrative has recently shifted from folklore to a massive, multi-million-dollar industrial operation. At the center of this modern-day crusade is Vanessa Lucido, a professional engineer and CEO of ROC Equipment, whose advanced drilling capabilities have pushed deeper into the island's core than any previous explorer could have dreamed. Recently, speculation has exploded regarding a potential $300 million discovery, and while many skeptics dismissed the rumors as myth, the latest physical evidence suggests that the ground is finally starting to speak, revealing truths that have been buried since the 1700s. The breakthrough began not with a shovel, but with a map that refused to stay silent, a document rediscovered within the 26 boxes of personal papers belonging to William B. Goodwin, a wealthy historian who was obsessed with the island in the 1930s. This wasn't just a sketch of X marks the spot, it was a hand-marked diagram complete with coordinates, boulders, and symbols that pointed toward 3 hidden caches. For decades, Goodwin's theories were seen as a fairy tale, but when Rick Lagina and his team put boots on the ground, the fairy tale began to leave behind hard evidence. Following Goodwin's notes, the team located a series of massive stones, a smooth slab with a carved X, a second stone featuring square shapes, and a third rock shaped distinctly like a kidney bean, found exactly 91 feet inland from the center road. The precision was staggering. These markers weren't accidents of nature, but deliberate surveying points that validated a map many had questioned for nearly a century. As the search intensified, the team discovered a final clue in Goodwin's writings. A massive boulder split across the top as if struck by lightning. Beneath this shattered stone, Gary Drayton's metal detector shrieked with a signal that changed everything. They unearthed a hand-forged iron cribbing spike, dating back to at least the 1700s, an industrial tool placed with clear intent. This discovery made the mission personal for Vanessa Lucido. She realized that the island wasn't just a repository of gold, but a site of massive prehistoric engineering. She immediately mobilized her ROC equipment crew, shifting the strategy from speculation to high-precision drilling. The goal was no longer just to find a chest, but to penetrate ground that was once thought to be untouched, yet now appeared to be a carefully constructed cover-up. While the drilling began, other parts of the island revealed an even broader mystery. In the North Swamp, the team uncovered layers of wooden planks and stacked platforms that were far too organized to be natural. Carbon dating on similar stakes found in the area pointed all the way back to the 1500s, suggesting that Oak Island had functioned as an industrial-scale worksite. Centuries before the money pit was officially discovered in 1795. Dr. Ian Spooner, an expert brought in to evaluate the find, was in visible shock. The wood was ancient and appeared to be part of an engineered system used to transport heavy, valuable cargo across unstable terrain. This wasn't just a pirate's hole. It was a sophisticated operation meant to protect secrets on an industrial level. The intensity reached a fever pitch as Vanessa's drill rig tore through the earth on Lot 1, descending past 100, 150, and eventually 200 feet. At these depths, the drill met resistance, pulling up core samples that left the team stunned. Blackened, charred timber that appeared to have been burned and buried. Rick Lagina noted that the aging patterns were unmistakable. This was a deliberate act, a seal meant to hide something permanently. Soon, the cores yielded hand-cut beams with visible tool marks, suggesting a constructed tunnel or shaft. Then came the finding that flipped the investigation on its head: a heavy, green-tinted metal fragment fused against the ancient wood. Early lab readings revealed traces of gold, providing the first tangible sign that something of immense value was indeed buried in the deep. The mystery only deepened when the team pulled up a fragment of textile, woven cloth that had somehow survived centuries of pressure, water, and decay beneath the earth. This fabric suggested that items had been sealed and protected with extreme care, ensuring they would remain intact for whoever was intended to find them. This realization redirected everyone's attention to Lot 21, a stretch of land that had remained largely untouched since 1795. Using the Goodwin map's geometry, the team realized the marker stones formed a precise triangle, the center of which pointed to a wooded knoll that had never been tested. When Gary Drayton swept the area, he uncovered a crushed, corroded signet ring from the 1700s, a marker of authority and identity that suggested a leader, not just a laborer, had been present on the island. With the triangle's center identified, Vanessa Lucido ordered ground-penetrating radar scans, which returned readings of deep, rectangular anomalies and hollow pockets. Positioning a massive caisson for a controlled vertical test, the team held their breath as the drill descended. At 90 feet, they hit clay. At 130 feet, they found more burned wood. And at 160 feet, the drill suddenly dropped into total emptiness. On Oak Island, an underground void is never an accident. It is the fingerprint of human engineering. A borehole camera was immediately deployed, sliding down into the darkness until, at 170 feet, it captured visuals of flat, angular stone, arranged like a constructed platform or vault. The precision of the stonework and the fitted timbers suggested they had finally located the legendary chapel vault, or perhaps an even more significant counterpart, located west of the traditional search grid. The air in the war room was electric as the team realized the data was finally aligning with the Goodwin-Blair composite map. A small, perfectly formed man-made bead was recovered from a core sample, further proving that they were inside a sealed, human-made space. Even the usually cautious Rick Lagina admitted they had crossed into something entirely different. Something untouched and undisturbed for centuries. The borehole camera continued to broadcast images of an interior with inward curving walls and timbers, fitted under such pressure that there was no sign of sagging or erosion. This wasn't a natural cavern. It was an architectural feat designed to last for eternity. Determined to unlock the vault, Vanessa Lucido made the high-stakes decision to expand the operation to full quiescent drilling, positioning 3 shafts in a triangular formation that mirrored the boulders on the surface. As the third quiescent reached 178 feet, the ground opened into a massive chamber, and a rush of stale, trapped air hissed upward, air that had been sealed away for hundreds of years. A high-powered camera lowered into the breach revealed a chamber 10 feet across and 5 feet tall, and right in the middle sat a rectangular metallic container, covered in sediment, but unmistakably a chest. The most chilling detail, however, was etched into the chamber wall, an X marking, identical to the one carved on the surface boulder found weeks earlier. The puzzle pieces were finally locked in place, and the team stood on the precipice of a discovery that could rewrite history. The realization that they were no longer just looking for a hole in the ground, but rather an industrial-scale engineering project, changed the very nature of the operation. This was the moment where the treasure hunt ended and a high-stakes archaeological recovery began. Vanessa Lucido's decision to move from narrow 7 to 8-inch exploratory drill casings to full-scale caisson drilling was a massive financial and technical gamble, but the evidence left her with no other choice. The data was no longer suggesting the presence of gold. It was shouting it through the traces of gold found fused to ancient, charred timber pulled from 200 feet below the surface. This metallic fragment, combined with the discovery of the woven textile, proved that whatever was down there had been meticulously protected from the island's notorious flood traps. The mystery of Oak Island has always been a battle against water and time, but the Goodwin-Blair composite map provided the first clear strategic advantage in centuries. For years, the search had been concentrated on the traditional money pit area. Yet this new evidence shifted the focus westward, to an area previously dismissed by generations of searchers. This westward shift was validated by the triangular arrangement of boulders and the survey stakes that carbon dated back to the 1500s, long before the official discovery of the pit in 1795. These stakes weren't just random markers. They were part of a sophisticated surveying system used to align the hidden vaults with the surface landscape. Dr. Ian Spooner's analysis of the North Swamp provided the final piece of the environmental puzzle. The layers of wooden planks and structured platforms found deep in the muck suggested a cobbled stone road system designed to haul massive, heavy weight across unstable ground. This wasn't the work of a few pirates burying a chest. It was an industrial worksite dedicated to secrecy. The fact that these structures matched the elevation of the vaulted chamber, 178 feet underground, suggested a singular, master-planned operation. The stale air that hissed from the breach in the third caisson was the breath of a 500-year-old secret finally being exhaled. As the team prepares for the next phase, the stakes have reached a fever pitch with the potential $300 million discovery. The crushed signet ring found on Lot 21 serves as a haunting reminder that this operation was led by someone of immense authority, a leader who possessed the resources to build a vault that could withstand centuries of pressure and salt water. The rectangular metallic container resting in the center of the chamber, marked with the same X found on the surface boulders, is the ultimate target. The question now isn't just what is inside the chest, but how the team will safely navigate the engineered flood traps and structural risks to finally bring the truth to the surface. The transition to a full excavation is fraught with danger, requiring specialized permits and structural safety crews to prevent a catastrophic collapse at those extreme depths. Yet, the borehole camera footage of the inward curving stone walls and tightly fitted timbers suggests a vault built with such architectural precision that it has remained undisturbed by nature for centuries. Rick Lagina's observation that they have crossed into something different reflects the gravity of the situation. They are no longer chasing ghosts. They are touching the very architecture of a hidden history. Every scrap of metal, every fragment of cloth, and every polished bead recovered from the depths brings them one step closer to solving a puzzle that has defeated every explorer since 1795. The visual from the second borehole camera, now equipped with high-intensity lighting, transformed the blurry darkness into a clear, high-definition look at history itself. Resting amidst the sediment and ancient debris of the 178-foot chamber sat the rectangular metallic container, a shape so uniform and intentional that it could only be described as a chest. The surrounding environment was equally staggering. The walls of the vault were not jagged earth but carefully arranged stones with a subtle inward curve, braced by heavy hand-cut timbers that had held the weight of the island for centuries without sagging. This was architectural planning at its most sophisticated, designed to protect its contents from both the crushing pressure of the depths and the engineered flood traps that had thwarted seekers for generations. As the camera panned, it illuminated a faint etching on the chamber wall, an X marking that was a mirror image of the one found on the surface boulders, providing the final, undeniable link between the Goodwin Blair composite map and the reality beneath the soil. The immediate reaction from the crew was a mixture of silent awe and the realization that the methodology had to change instantly. Vanessa Lucido, recognizing that further drilling risked destroying the very artifacts they were seeking, made the high-stakes call to shift from discovery to total recovery. We need to excavate, not drill. This shift meant navigating a logistical minefield of specialized permits, structural safety engineers, and the constant threat of a massive collapse. However, with early readings of core samples showing traces of gold fused to ancient wood and the recovery of a perfectly formed, man-made bead, the evidence suggested that the $300 million figure was no longer a myth but a tangible goal. The stale, trapped air that had hissed from the breach was a literal breath from the past, signaling that the seal of the silent architect had finally been broken. This breakthrough also forced a re-evaluation of the entire island's purpose. The discovery of the chamber west of the traditional money pit zone, combined with the industrial-scale structures in the North Swamp and the ancient stone road, painted a picture of a massive 16th-century operation. The signet ring found on Lot 21, showing signs of authority and identity, hinted at a leadership presence, perhaps someone overseeing the construction of this specific vault system. It was now clear that Oak Island had not been a simple hiding spot for pirates, but a dedicated worksite for a high-level secret. Every new detail, from the woven textile fragment to the charred beams found at 200 feet, suggested a deliberate and multi-layered cover-up designed to last forever. As the ROC equipment team began preparing for the full-scale excavation, the focus turned to the container itself. If it truly held the riches hinted at by the $300 million speculation, it would represent one of the greatest archaeological finds in modern history. But beyond the gold, the mystery finally uncovered was the story of the people who built it. The engineers and surveyors who used precise geometry to hide their tracks. The team stood on the brink of an event that would not only rewrite the history of Oak Island, but could potentially redefine the maritime history of the entire North American continent. The vault was no longer a theory. It was a physical space, and for the first time in over 200 years, someone was finally looking inside. The chamber revealed by the third caisson was approximately 10 feet across and 5 feet tall, a space that had successfully defied the crushing weight of the Earth for centuries. As the high-intensity lighting of the second borehole camera cut through the literal dust of the ages, the stale trapped air that hissed to the surface served as a haunting confirmation of the vault's total isolation. This was no natural cavity. It was a masterwork of the silent architect, featuring reinforced stone walls and tightly fitted timbers that showed absolutely no signs of erosion or sagging. This level of precision and architectural planning reaffirmed the team's growing theory that Oak Island had once functioned as an industrial-scale worksite dedicated to the preservation of a high-level secret. In the very center of this pristine underground vault sat the target of the century, a rectangular metallic container, heavily coated in sediment but undeniably man-made. The shock of the discovery intensified when the camera panned to the chamber wall, illuminating a sharp, unmistakable X etched into the stone. This marking was a perfect mirror of the one found on the surface boulder weeks earlier, finally locking the Goodwin Blair composite map into the physical reality of the island. The map, once dismissed as a historian's obsession, had led them directly to a literal vault, and the speculation of a $300 million treasure was no longer a headline. It was a looming reality resting just a few feet beyond their reach. Vanessa Lucido immediately recognized that the era of exploratory boreholes had come to an end. Her voice was steady but carried the weight of the moment as she informed the team, "We need to excavate, not drill." Shifting to a full-scale recovery operation was an immense technical and financial gamble, requiring specialized permits, structural safety engineers, and a strategy to bypass the island's notorious engineered flood traps. However, with traces of gold already recovered from deeper core samples and a perfectly polished man-made bead found inside a sealed space, the momentum had become unstoppable. They were no longer merely hunting for gold. They were unearthing the identity of a leadership presence that had reached the island centuries before recorded history. As the ROC equipment crew prepares the heavy machinery for the final breach, the mystery of Oak Island stands on the precipice of total resolution. The evidence, from the crushed signet ring and hand-forged spikes to the vaulted chamber, points toward a singular conclusion. The treasure was hidden with a level of sophistication meant to last for eternity. What lies inside that metallic chest has the potential to rewrite the history of the Knights Templar, the legacy of Captain Kidd, and the maritime narrative of the entire North American continent. For the first time in over 200 years, the ground has finished keeping its secrets, and the truth is finally coming to the light.